How's it going, Jack Sackers, and welcome back to another video for you guys. Today I'm going to be doing my review for Season 1 of 1923, a Yellowstone origin story. Obviously, this was the prequel slash spin-off to Yellowstone, which is one of my favorite shows on TV at the moment, and I was a really big fan of 1883, which was the first spin-off and prequel to the show. And I was looking forward to this one, particularly because Harrison Ford was going to be the main lead as Jacob Dutton, of course. And not only him, I mean, this cast was absolutely stacked. I mean, Taylor Sheridan, I don't know, he just went off with the show and decided to, I actually don't know if he was the one in charge of casting, but he was definitely in charge of writing the show and creating it. And let me just tell you right now, it was some good stuff. But going back to the cast, we have Helen Mirren, Jerome Flynn, who's from Game of Thrones, so that was pretty cool. He played Bronn in Game of Thrones. And you have Timothy Dalton. And you also have Robert Patrick. I mean, a lot of these pretty big actors, in my opinion, or at least actors that I have a fondness for, and I was excited to see them in this show, and they were fantastic. I mean, especially Timothy Dalton in those last few episodes. He really becomes this antagonistic presence and quite villainous overall. So it's pretty awesome stuff there. And Harrison Ford, this was like one of his first TV shows I've ever seen him in. Maybe it was his first TV show. I know he's doing an Apple TV Plus show with Jason Segel right now. I'm not watching that, but it seems like he's kind of dipping his toe into TV a bit more as of late. And he was just really good in this show. I mean, Harrison Ford was just absolutely badass in the character of Jacob Dutton. I really liked him in this. And it was really fascinating, but overall, I loved this show. I don't know if I liked it more than 1883, because I really enjoyed 1883, but, you know, they keep announcing all these spin-offs for Yellowstone, and some people are starting to get a little hesitant, but hey, folks, here's the thing. The spin-offs are good, so I can't really complain that much. I mean, if they're good, they're good, so I'm not going to really be sitting back and complaining like, oh, we're getting more spin-offs. Until we get a spin-off, again, spin-off or prequel. Really, it's more of a prequel. Until we get a prequel that is not very good, then okay, maybe we'll have a problem. But again, we're 2 for 2 now with 1883 and 1923. They're both very good. And 1923 is actually going to be getting his second season. So that's really exciting as well. And overall, the cinematography and just overall budget, production design on this series is fantastic. I mean, especially the budget. They just went all out with this show. It really felt, I mean, 1883 was solid, but even more so with this series, it felt like they just went all out with the budget. I mean, you have multiple things going on, multiple locations. I mean, this story felt so vast and real, and like there was just so many things going on. I mean, especially with all the locations. Mostly when I'm talking about the locations, I'm talking about Spencer Dutton, who's in Africa, or at least he starts the show off in Africa, and then at one point he ends up in the middle of the ocean after he capsizes his boat, and all this stuff, and all these crazy shenanigans ensue. But I mean, you know, the budget was just phenomenal to kind of show, especially all these animals when he was in Africa, hunting lions and leopards and stuff, and that was pretty intense. That's some of my favorite stuff that this show did. And that, again, with the scene with the boat was just fantastic and thrilling. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, this felt like an adventure. And in a lot of ways, this has like multiple genres, this series. I mean, it's really good stuff. I can't get enough of this show. I mean, it's pretty damn underrated. Like, if you haven't seen this show, you got to check it out, because I feel like I'm not giving it justice in this review, but, you know, it's just really exciting. And you have, like, adventure aspects. There's definitely a sense of romance, of course. A lot of people say it's a very romantic show. But it's, like, romantic in, again, like, an adventurous sense, right? And the romance always felt relatively natural. And I'm the kind of guy who doesn't like romance, you know. But it still felt like authentic and weirdly nostalgic. I mean, maybe because this was in the 20s, and you know, you kind of look at the 20s with rose-tinted glasses. I mean, no, I wasn't around in the 20s, obviously, but you know, the 20s were kind of a neat time. You know, that's when things started to pick up. Technology started to advance, electricity and all that. I mean, they talk about it in this show. And it's pretty interesting, you know, electricity especially. And this was it's a very interesting thing for a Western, because I love Westerns, first of all. And it's a very interesting setting to have a Western in 1920s, 1923 to be exact, of course. And, you kind of have this transition of horses to cars, all the Ford Model Ts and whatnot. And it is very interesting, especially all the scenes when they would walk into town on their horses back in Montana. And you would see cars and horses. And it was just kind of like a weird, like, transitional period for, I guess, the Old West. I mean, the Old West wasn't really there anymore. I mean, you look back at 1883, this is pretty, soon after the events of the Civil War. And it's pretty much still the Old West. But now it's not really the Old West anymore. I mean, we are in the 20th century in this show, and, technology is advancing, and it's just craziness, and things are starting to change. Times are changing, and it was a very interesting period to set a Western, and I think that's the whole reason they decided to do this show, because they knew it was a very interesting setting and time period to have a Western and to tell this story and let it unfold in this way, because it was very interesting to see all these different elements and all these technological advances and how things are changing. It was very interesting. It was a very interesting transitional period for the Old West. I really liked that. You also have the character of Tiana Rainwater in this show. She was obviously, I believe, the grandmother of Rainwater in Yellowstone, and played by Gil Birmingham. I don't know, I'm forgetting the character's name at the moment, but obviously his last name is Rainwater, and Tiana Rainwater in this show was pretty awesome. She's a badass, and she goes through so much hell in this show, and by the end, I just wanted her to have a kind of a happy ending, and she kind of does by the end of this season, of course. I'm assuming she will be in the second season, and, she was really great. The actress who portrayed her as well, fantastic stuff. She really put a lot of emotion into this show, and it was really sad and messed up. I mean, she went through a lot of her body and mental state took a toll in this series, and she was fantastic. She was definitely one of the highlights of the show. But then again, there wasn't really any like weak points with this show. I think all the stories were pretty interesting. I mean, I thought it was all pretty good stuff. It was pretty riveting. It was pretty engaging. The music in the show, also the intro sequence music especially, was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I really loved the 1883's music they used in that show, but this show also had good music. And, every time the intro sequence rolled in, I was like, yeah, this is some good stuff right here. Sat back and listened to the music. But overall, Taylor Sheridan did an amazing job with this show. And everyone involved, it was just fantastic. Story was great. I really loved all the characters. And, I thought the cinematography obviously was fantastic. Really beautiful stuff. And really added to the Yellowstone lore in many interesting ways. It's very fascinating to think that this takes place in the Yellowstone universe. Sometimes I forget that it does. But yeah, nonetheless, good stuff overall. And I'm pretty happy that this show will be getting a season 2, just to see, because the season doesn't really wrap up everything. Definitely leaves some storylines that they weren't wrapped up, and makes sense. If I hadn't known this show was getting a second season, I'd have been a lot more upset. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this show. Of course, let me hear yours if you've seen it down in the comments below, because I'm definitely interested to see what you guys have to say about it. I haven't really seen many people talk about this show. It's pretty underrated, I'd say. And if you haven't seen it, check it out. I don't know if I spoiled anything. I might have. So if I did, oops. But I don't think I spoiled anything major, did I? I don't know. But, if you are watching this still and you haven't seen it, check it out. But yeah, that's all I got to say about this show. Let me hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you guys liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.